Hi everybody, Alex Deploy here from Expert Forex, and in today's video we're going to be looking at an extremely important Forex trading skill that every single person who has ever traded a Forex robot needs to know. And that is how to create an army of trading robots. Now, why would you need to create an army of trading robots, you might ask? Well, firstly, it is very, very important to test any robot that you're ever going to trade before going live. And if you are you would do that on a demo account, and there's many reasons why you need to do that, because all broker accounts are slightly different from the other. And you also need to test the EA for profitability so that you understand how it works and what the risks are involved. So we do recommend that you trade any EA that you're going to be trading live for at least 2 to 3 weeks before going live. And if you are going to be testing it, you might as well test it properly. Test it on a few currencies, test it on a few time frames. We strongly recommend that approach. And then when you have decided to go live, you might want to trade a portfolio of EAs. In other words, in your testing, you might have identified a number of currencies, a number of time frames, a number of settings that you want to use, and you might have 4 or 5 of the best ones that you've identified. So you might want to trade a portfolio of robots. So in this video, you're going to learn how to duplicate your expert advisors or robots to trade many currencies and many time frames in a few minutes. So what I'm going to be showing you is how to set your robot up properly and create set files. Then how to set your robot chart up properly and create a template. And then to duplicate that template into many other currencies to create a profile, or to duplicate that template into many other time frames and create a profile. So let's begin. Okay, so let's start. On your screen, you can see a demo account that I've created. It is on the default profile. And what I've done with the default profile is I've cleaned it up. In other words, I've closed all the charts that are on the default profile. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to load a chart of the currency and time frame that I'm most likely to trade. So I'm going to load the Euro 4 hours. So I go Euro and I click on 4 hour, and there I've got the Euro 4 hour, and you can see the recent increase in volatility that's happened. Look at the volatility before the crisis and now after the crisis. Okay, then I open the navigator and I find the EA that I want to trade. It's going to be the tradable RSI, and I drag that onto the chart. I then set up the settings that I want to use. So I go to common ones, click on the important items there, and then I go to inputs and I start setting my EA up. And I know what I want to do with this particular one. I want to say I want to use the $1 million settings, which is the RSI at 5. We want a upward crossover at the 70 line. We want a downward crossover on the 30 line, and we want at least 5 open trades, and we want the sell settings to be based on the buy settings but in reverse. So I've clicked that, and then I go down and I look at total number of open trades. We'll need 10 of those, 5 for the buys and 5. We want pruning, so pruning will take place. And we don't actually want a stop or target because the settings that I'm using are stops and targets in themselves. And I'm going to trade 0.01 lots. I'm not going to worry about break-even stops and trailing stops because all the entries and exits have already been programmed into those settings that I used, and we're ready to go. So those are the settings that I want to use. I've done that now, so the next step is to save them. So I go save, and I call this $1 million settings, and I save them. So now I've saved my settings. I don't have to repeat them if I have to load my EA onto another chart. So then I say OK, and the chart comes up and it's ready to trade, except that it says I haven't got automated trading on, which isn't a problem at this stage. Now I want to actually set this chart up to monitor the EA, and why I'm going to do that, I'm going to actually reformat this chart. I'm going to do black on white. I'm going to have a bar. A bull candle is always blue for me, and a bear candle is always red for me. So I do that, and that should do the trick. And I say OK, and I change it to candles and increase the size. Okay, so it's starting to look like a trading chart. Then I add my indicator, which is the RSI. And I have set that for 5. And that's fine, blue, or everything's fine there. And the levels that I've set is 30, and I want them to be a bit clearer, so I'll make them red, and I'll make the lines a little bit thicker, and I'll add that. Right, so there's the RSI, and I'm going to be using that for those are the settings that I've used. So I've basically said when the RSI goes over the 70 line from the top, you buy. So you can see that was a great trade. And then when it goes below the 30 line from the top, like there, down like that, then you sell. And you can see that was also a fantastic trade. So it's a good system overall. And every time it does that, you increase your number of open trades until you've reached 5, and then you start pruning. So overall, it's a really good system. I'm happy with it, and I'm ready to trade. So I then do the settings. I want it slightly off the right hand side. I can see what's going on, so I can actually monitor whether the EA is trading the way it should. For instance, it should have opened a sell there, it should have opened a sell there, it should have opened a sell there, but because this is the first time that it's trading, obviously that doesn't happen. So I can actually monitor the EA on my chart. So now I have set up the EA. I've set it up with my settings that I want, and I have created set files that I can duplicate those settings anywhere I want. And I've also created the chart that I want, that I can monitor the EA with. I can now close the navigator, and I don't want to duplicate all this work that I've done before, so I go right click, templates, save templates. So I'm going to save this as my $1 million template. Let's not confuse it. And there we go. So now we have set files for the settings. We've got a template for the chart, and there we are. I'm going to minimize this. So there's my euro. Now here's where we go into the next step. The next step is now let's say 5 more currencies, and I'm just going to add the major ones. So we'll add the pound, we'll add the yen, we'll add the CAD, we'll add the Oz, and we'll add, let's say, the pound yen. Okay, and then I'll tile them. So there we are. We've got our one chart that we're trading, and I'm going to, I should have moved that a little bit away. Right, so that's a slightly better setup. I'm going to resave that template because I've changed my mind on it. Save template, and I'm going to call it the $1 million template, and I'm just going to resave it, and I say yes. Okay, so now we don't have to repeat all the work that we've done previously. All we need to do is copy the template. So template, $1 million, template, $1 million, $1 million. Okay, so there we've done it. So we've now set up 6 robots to trade 6 different currencies on the 4-hour time frame. And we can now let this run for 2 weeks and see the results of every single currency. Now, because we're using different currencies, we don't need to change the magic number of each robot because they are trading unique currencies. Later on, you'll see we need to change the magic number. So all we now need to do is click auto trading, and that error message disappears, and we are trading. The robots are now running and they are trading the 6 currencies, and we can just leave them. It says the spread's too low for this one, and in fact I will go in there and change that spread for that particular guy, and the maximum spread is 5. This is a high spread currency, so we make it 8, and there I get rid of that error message that happens. So now I can leave this for 2 weeks and come back and have a look at what's going on. And I can also monitor, because for instance there, when it crosses from the top to the bottom, I need to see a sell when it in fact happens. Now you'll see now and then the spread becomes a problem, but it's also because now is a very low volatility time of the day, so the spreads are a little bit inconsistent. When volatility increases, then the spreads will normalize. Okay, so that's the next step. Is we've now set up a testing mechanism to test 8 robots trading different currencies. Now the big thing here is we don't want to repeat all this, so we save this as a profile. So you go to Profile, Save Profile, and it will bring up a little box like this, and it says, what do you want to save this as? And I'll say million currencies. And we say OK, and now you'll see that the profile is called million currencies, and now we've got a profile saved, we've got a template saved, and we've got our settings saved as a set file. So now the next step is that I want to show you is to how to trade a robot using different time frames. Now it's more or less the same thing, and what I'm going to do is pretend that I'm on a totally different demo account, because you cannot have 2 profiles running robots live at the same time. You only can have 1 profile running connected to the internet. So I'm going to pretend now, and I'm going to go back to the demo, the default one, and I'm just going to delete all of them just to pretend that I'm on a completely new demo account. So I'm on a completely new demo account. So we're now going to set up a group of EAs to trade different profiles. So I'm still going to go for the euro. So we'll start with the euro, and we'll load 6 versions of the euro. And there we are, and then we'll tell them, okay, there's 6 versions of the euro. They're all 1-hour versions, and just to get this done properly right from the beginning, I'm going to actually say this one is going to be the weekly, that's going to be the daily, that's going to be the 4-hour, this is going to be the 1 hour, and that is going to be the 30-minute, and that is going to be the 15 minutes. So we are now going to test the EA using different time frames. So we don't need to recreate the wheel again, because we can just go to the template and add our $1 million template to that particular chart. And there we are. So we don't have to do all that much more now. The trick here is that you cannot trade the same robot on the same currency with the same magic number. It's going to tell you there's an error. So I'm going to now load this template, and you'll see this will be a problem. Okay, magic number. It says there are two instances, so you say yes, I know, and then you go into the properties and you go right, and the magic number is normally right at the bottom, and you change it to anything you want. So I'm going to just make that 1111, and we say okay, and now it won't complain. So we do the same thing on the next one. So I go million template. It says it complains, so you just go and change it. You go right down to the bottom, and this one I'll call 222. Okay, and now it won't complain. So we do the same thing. So that's the only trick when you're using different time frames. You have to have magic numbers. So you just go and change it. Down you go, and this one can be 3. And templates. This can be 4. So they just need unique magic numbers. Okay, so now what do we have here? We have a robot trading the euro on 6 different time frames. And this is just an example that I've shown you now, how you can set up the same robot to trade different currencies and the same robot to trade different time frames. And this is in fact what I would recommend that you do when you buy an EA. You test it over, let's say, 6 to 8 currencies. You test it over, let's say, 4 or 5 time frames, and you test every currency over 4 or 5 time frames. So you might need, you'll be able to trade about 20 to 30 robots at the same time. And by the way, the licensing that we provide says you can trade as many robots on as many accounts as long as you don't use more than 2 computers. So you can use a VPS and a desktop, and that will be fine. You can actually trade thousands of versions of the EA as long as you don't use more than 2 computers. Now the next final step that we haven't done yet is we have to save this as a profile. So we go save profile, and we say million time frames. So we know this is the $1 million settings based on time frames for the Euro USD. So, all right, so it's very clear what the profile name is, and we say OK. And now the default changes to the new name that we've given it. And if we want to now call up, for instance, the old one that we've created, and I'll just go right to the bottom, the currencies one. Call that one up, and there's the currency one. So there's the euro, yen, Aussie. So and then if we want to go back to the other one, we just simply click on that one. So that's how profiles can really help you save all the work that you've done. Templates can help you save all the work you've done, and set files can help you save all the work that you've done. So as promised in the beginning, I've shown you how to set up your robot properly and create set files. I've shown you how to set your robot chart up properly so that you can monitor the trading of your robot and create a template. Then I've shown you how to duplicate it into many currencies and create profiles, and also I've shown you how to duplicate it into many time frames and create profiles. So remember, the time frame section that I've shown you should be on a separate demo account, so that's linked to the internet, and the currency profile that I've shown you should be on a separate demo account, so it's linked to the internet. You cannot have 2 profiles running on the same platform. And also, just to remind you, you really need to do this testing before going live. You need to get positive results in the testing that I've just shown you before you go live. Don't test and get negative results and still go live. I mean, that defeats the object of testing. But your testing must be sound and be done on the basis that I've shown you now. And then when you do go live, you create the same profiles and setups as I've just shown you, but in this case you create them for your live account. Now, I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope it helps you trade your EAs a lot better. I hope it encourages you to test your EAs and your settings a lot better before you go live. From me, Alex Deploy, cheerio.